Hello. In this tutorial, in this video, I'm going to show you how to work with the data files from the textbook. Some of you are having some problems where you open the files and it's not showing you anything, or it's showing you the HTML code in the browser, that type of thing. So before I begin, I've downloaded the data files from the text, and they're right here, and we're going to go take a look at the files for assignment 2, which is tutorials 3 and 4. So I'm going to double click on the folder. I'm going to go to the tutorial 3 because assignment 2 is tutorials 3 and 4. So I'm going to go to tutorial 3, and then each of the assignments works with the review problem. So I'm going to double click on the review problem. So here are the files that the textbook provides. Now you're going to notice that some of them end in TXT, some of them in CSS, some of them in HTML. This indicates the type of file. An example is a TXT and an HTML file are actually the same type of file in that they're both text files. Okay. The difference is the extension, and an HTML file also means that the file, as well as being a text file, has HTML code and can be interpreted by a browser. So a few of you are working in Word, so I'm going to demonstrate that. So let's say the beginning of the assignment is right here, and it says use your text editor to open holidays text.html and hsstyles text.css from the tutorial 3 review folder included in your data files. Enter your name and the date, and then it wants you to change the name to be holiday.html and hsstyles.css respectively. So I'm going to go into Word because I know that's what some of you are working with, and I'm going to open the file. I'm going to go to my computer, and I have mine on my desktop, so I'm going to go there, and data files for text, tutorial 3, review, and it wants me to open the holiday text HTML. So I'm going to open that, and look what's happened. It doesn't show me the HTML code, it shows me the actual web page, just like it would if I opened it in a browser. That's because Word is recognizing that it's a web page, it's interpreting the code and displaying the results just like a web browser would. So in this case, Word is sort of acting like a web browser as opposed to an editor which displays the code. So how am I going to fix this? I'm going to close Word, and I'm going to go here to holiday, and I'm going to add a .txt to the end just for now. Now when I open it in Word, open computer, desktop. So I want the data files for the text, and here I am right here. Now when I open in Word, it sees it as a text file, a true text file, not an HTML file. So instead of interpreting the text and displaying the results, it simply opens the file and displays the codes to you. Okay, and now you can edit the file, so you can make whatever changes. I think they wanted you to for example, put your name and the date. I think, what is today? It's June 1st. Now when you save it, I'm going to save it back, and I have to change the name. You have to make sure that you're saving it as a text file. If you're saving it as a Word document, it will save your code, but when you try to open it in your web browser, it's going to open it as a Word document, not interpret the code and display the results like we want it to. If I try to save it as a web page, now this would seem logical. Save it as a web page, right? But when you save it as a web page from Word, it expects that you typed what you wanted to see on the web page, not the HTML codes. When you actually type the HTML codes and you want the file to be saved so that when it's opened in the web browser, it interprets the code and displays the results, you need to save it as a text file, a plain text file. So you see here, I did that. I'm going to take out the txt, so it's holiday.htm. Now you're going to notice something, that when I save it, it is going to add, just click OK, it is going to add .txt to the end. Okay, oops. Because it's a text file. So you'd have to go in here, find the holiday.htm that I just saved, and remove the .txt in order to view it in the browser. So I need to remove the well, it's complaining because I have the file open here. Let me close the file and try again. There we go. So now I can view this file in my web browser. Holiday, I'm not in the right place. I want desktop, tutorial 3, and holiday.htm. So now it displays it properly. Now I've heard from some of you that your images are not displaying. Okay, so this is another important thing. All of your files need to be in the same directory or the same folder. Okay, when I'm going to open the I renamed it, that's why it's complaining. And I'm going to have to, I don't think this is going to work. I'm going to try just here putting text. Nope, that's not going to work. I'm going to have to rename the file before I can view it again. I'm going to have to put the txt extension before I can view it again in Word. Desktop, data files, tutorial 3, and I want the holiday one. If you see here, let's find a place that refers to an image or a file name. See here my links: home.htm, maze.htm, haunted.htm, petting.htm. It is looking for these files in the same directory as this file. So I have to have my images right here, my my SA logo.png, Sunny Acres logo. I have to have that in the same file. Otherwise, I would have to put some information before it to specify that it's in another folder. So for an example, if this was in an images folder, I would have to do this before it could find the logo. And we're not doing that. We're just working everything out of the same folder. When you work out of multiple folders, it's more often for a larger website. I'd say if you have more than 50 files on your website, including images, at that point you might want to consider breaking things up into folders. So if you know that you're going to have a large website, then from the beginning you should work with multiple folders. And I think it went over that in tutorial 2. It went over the difference between absolute and relative URLs and how to specify that things are in different folders. So again, if you're working in Word, you have to pretty constantly be changing the file extension. It has to be a .htm in order to view it in the browser. It has to be a .txt in order to work with it in Word. Now, some of you might say, well, this is an awful lot of work to be going through. The other option is Notepad. And I'm not sure if Notepad. Working in Notepad, you don't have to constantly be changing the extensions. So I'm just going to go back and put this back as at a .htm, and I'm going to show you. It is easier in a way. Oh, I again have it open. Can't change the extension if you have it open. Okay, so I've closed it, changed the extension. So I'm going to edit again holiday.htm, and you're going to see I'm working with the HTML file. I haven't changed the extension to .txt this time. And I'm going to go find it on my desktop, data files, tutorial 3, review, and you're going to say, oh, what happened to the file? It's there. It's just only listing text files, so I have to tell it to list all files. And I can then edit the HTML file without changing it to a TXT file. And then when I'm done, I can save it, close it, or I don't even have to close it. I can go view it directly in my browser without having to change it back and forth from a text to an HTML. What are the disadvantages of Notepad? You know, in Word, you can zoom in, you have different views, you can make the font bigger, you can do all sorts of stuff to make it easier to edit. You can actually spell check, you know, blocks of text, that type of thing. You don't have any of those fancy things in Notepad. All it does is it's just a plain text editor with very few features. The advantage is that you don't have to switch back and forth between TXT and HTML extensions to work with it. If you are using a Mac, I believe there's a program called TextEdit that you can use that's very similar to Notepad. And if you go under the week 1 folder, there are tutorials for both TextEdit and Notepad under that section. So, you know, if you want to continue working with Word, that's fine. Just remember, you need to be changing the extensions depending on whether you want to view it in the browser or in Word. And or you can switch to Notepad. Has some disadvantages. The other option is to look, if you're going to continue to work on web pages past the end of this course, you might want to look for a free HTML editor. The HTML editor, there's a lot of free ones out there. They're pretty decent. They add some functionality. Usually there's a spell check. You can increase the font size. You won't have to be changing your file extensions. And then there's also Dreamweaver. However, I will warn you that Dreamweaver costs money. I pay $30-something a month subscription for Dreamweaver plus all of the Adobe products, and that's at a teacher-student discount. So after you graduate, the amount you would pay for a subscription for the Adobe products would be much higher. Feel free to call me if you have questions. I'm here to help you, and if you're having trouble on assignment 2, I'll be granting an extension. I know that, you know, with the 6-week course, we kind of get into style sheets pretty quick, and it's difficult to learn how to manage and edit multiple files. All right, that's it for today.